Welcome back to my channel. My name is Russell. I've been an entrepreneur for most of my life. I've owned several businesses. I've been successful and I've failed. I've had money, security, a house, cars, money in the bank, and I've lost it all. I've had to start over probably 3 or 4 times. And each time I learned from my mistakes. I came up with different strategies on how to keep that from ever happening again. But the experiences are valuable. What it feels like to suffer. What it feels like to go in the most expensive restaurant and not worry about the bill, pay the bill for your friends, get the appetizer, have 2 or 3 drinks, get the king crab with the steak, the prime rib, get the $7 baked potato. When you get a little older, that stuff's still nice, but you don't do it every single day of the week. I had some bad habits when I was first starting out as an entrepreneur. I would eat out a lot. I spent so much money eating out. It was ridiculous. That money that I spent eating out, I should have put back into the business. I should have invested in myself instead of enjoying the admission that money allowed me. And you know, I find it interesting that only a few people in my circle were jealous of me or, you know, wanted to be like me. They didn't like me, they wanted what I had. You know, it kind of felt like Caesar with everybody, the Senate surrounding him, ready to off him. Being an entrepreneur, you'll have a different type of friends. Some of the friends that I had when I was successful, real successful for the first time, weren't friends. They just wanted to hang around me. They didn't go out and become successful on their own. They were hanging around me, hoping that I was going to rub off my success was going to rub off onto them, and they were going to be like me. And that is far from ever going to happen. You go hang out with a rich person and you're not going home with the kind of money that guy has. It's just not possible. So I had to grow up. I had to get my mind right. I was sitting in a $5 chair, just like I'm sitting now, except I was in a house I was renting after the tent experience and then living in my old bedroom experience. I saved up enough money to turn the electricity on somewhere. You got to remember, when you rent someplace or you move into someplace, you have to turn the electricity on, and they have this thing called a deposit, and that could be almost a whole week's paycheck. It could be half a week's paycheck in some situations. So when I saved up enough money for the down payment, the security deposit, the money to turn the electricity on, I made the move from my parents' house to a rental. And I didn't have anything. I had a job fixing air conditioners. I'd owned an air conditioning company in Oregon, and that failed. Be careful who you get married to in business, because they will destroy you. If you could control people, you can get them to do anything you want. But that's just not the case. People have their own thoughts, their own motivations, their own levels of discipline, etc. So I moved into this rental with my daughter. It felt good. We had no furniture. Mattress was on the ground. I had a brick cinder block for a nightstand. No television, no cable. And started over. I was sitting with the doors and the windows open in this house, and sitting in my bedroom on the floor, because we had no furniture, and just relaxing. And the landlord walked in, and his name was Rick. He was, a stout person. He walks right into my bedroom and he looks at me. And he's shaking his head. He says, "What are you doing?" I says, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" He says, "What are you doing for work?" I says, "Well, I'm in between jobs right now." And he's my landlord. He goes, "You're going to come work for me." I says, "All right, doing what?" He goes, "I'm a realtor, and I own a lot of properties, and I'm managing a portfolio of foreclosed homes. I want you to clean them up, do the trash outs, mulch, fix all the bushes, clean the yards up. Then I want you to mow them when you're done until the house sells." See, Rick had a secret. He got the listings, and someone else would sell the house, and he would get 3% of the sale. And you do enough of these, you're going to make pretty good money. So he wasn't sitting in a house doing the open home thing. His hustle was a little different. He was working on volume, and that allowed him to have time to work on other things in his life, his other businesses, his other passions. So I went to work for Rick. I didn't have any tools. I didn't have anything to go clean up a foreclosed house. He invited me over to his house. He asked me to look around the garage and to pick out some of his tools. I think he gave me a saw that belonged to his son. And I used that. That came in handy for some things, but it didn't run right and stuff. So the handsaw was what I mostly used to cut the big branches that were hanging down, and then hanging over on the roof. When you're cleaning up a foreclosed home, you got to have all the trees and the branches away from the roof, at least by 3 inches. So when I pulled up to a foreclosed home, the first thing I would do is I would survey the property for glass, for rocks, for debris, branches overhanging the roof and stuff. So that's that's how I got the up. I'm coming up. So I started doing these foreclosed homes. And I borrowed tools from everybody. A broom, a push mower, garbage bags. I had a little money and I got some, no, actually I found garbage bags that I used. And the more foreclosed homes I did, the more tools I found. I found rakes, I found shovels, I found all sorts of stuff. So I needed a trailer, I needed a vehicle. I couldn't borrow someone's vehicle anymore, because now the level of debris and mess and stuff would have just trashed the vehicle I was using. So I built it up. I added on and I added on and I added on and I added on to this business I started. Didn't have a name, I didn't have insurance, I didn't have anything. It was just write a check to Russell when I was done. And I had to wait for that money. Sometimes I had to wait 4 weeks for that money. The first job I did, I trimmed 3 palm trees. And I waited 3 months for $100. It was painful. Someone owes you money and you have no money. That's all you think about is, when am I going to get that $100? That's a lesson that I learned. Pain. It's painful when someone owes you money. And the person that owed me money, they owned lots of properties. They were a multimillionaire. Their business has a process on how they pay out. They've got to collect the rent, and then they pay the bills with that rent. So if the tenant's late with the rent, then they're late paying me. You know, it's trickle down. Everything trickles down. I found myself cleaning up foreclosed houses. I did not have a real business. So when the market found its correction, the bank started selling off all these foreclosed homes. And Rick called it inventory. The inventory was drying up. So I was faced with a problem. My inventory is drying up. What am I going to do? So I had to pivot. If you ever listen to Shark Tank and stuff, they talk about, you know, stuff like that, pivoting. How can you scale? How can you, you know, do this and that? So I started leaving my business card inside the foreclosed homes. And some of my first lawn accounts were foreclosed houses. Now remember, they weren't close to each other. They were 20 miles apart sometimes. So I found myself in the early days of this business I started, mowing a house here, and then driving way over there to do that. So it wasn't very cost effective, but it was a numbers game. The more homes I mowed, the more money I brought in, and it made up for the expense of the gas and stuff. Now remember my time. I've got nothing but time on my hands. I'm broke as a joke, living in a rental with no furniture and a broken sink, mattress on the floor, trying to impress girls. You know, I spent my downtime sitting in a $5 chair, which I'll talk about later. I had nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I remember sitting in that chair just staring across the street going, what am I going to do? You know? How do you start a fire with no matches, no wood? Go stand in the middle of the desert and try to start a fire. It felt impossible. So I built up a lawn route from the foreclosed homes. I was also doing other things. I was riding my bike around, trying to meet people in the neighborhood. I printed up some flyers. I went to the print shop and copies were so much a copy, and I printed all these copies up. I stapled rubber bands to them, and I went around to all these houses. And if the owner was in the yard, I talked to the owner. I didn't get one single reply from any of that. I realized that these people who pay for services already had services, and they're not going to take a chance on a tall, skinny guy who's riding around on a bicycle handing out flyers. It did not work. I didn't understand how to grow and develop a business. I was trying to develop a business for free. The money for the computer paper, folded up rubber band marketing plan didn't cost much. $10 maybe. It was a big fat wah wah wah. So I had to pivot. I had to come up with a better plan. When you want to put an elephant in a refrigerator, how do you do it? A friend of mine asked me that question. I said, what do you mean? He goes, how do you put an elephant in a refrigerator? I said, you cut it up and you put it in the refrigerator. He goes, no. You open the door and you put the elephant in the refrigerator. And he walked off. His point was, I was overcomplicating things. I was making things too hard. I had a flip phone. And the girl I was dating at the time suggested that I make phone calls. Use my phone. Stop riding around on your darn bicycle, trying to get lawn accounts. You've got no trailer. You got no commercial equipment. No one's going to hire you. So I took her advice. She goes, you're going to put a board up on the wall, and you're going to look at it every day. And you're going to make 5 phone calls every single day. And you're going to put notes next to them on how those phone calls are going. So I started making 5 phone calls. I called property managers. I called everybody. They didn't see a guy on a bicycle handing out rubber-banded flyers. They heard a person over the phone that is willing to take care of their customers' accounts for them. I'm their guy. So I started getting requests to go give estimates. I got no money. I got no gas. I got to drive out to these estimates. Some of them were far away. Now I got to figure out how to estimate jobs. What to charge? How much time is it going to take? Where am I going to get the materials? I had a lot to figure out. I knew where the dump was. I knew where the gas station was. That was it. So I came up with a strategy. I'm going to fake it until I make it. My estimates were nuts. They were cheap. I didn't understand what I was doing, but I was going to make these properties look the best I possibly could. I had to tap into my artistic ability to create a beautiful house. So when I walked to the end of the driveway after I was done, I wanted to see curb appeal. I wanted them to be proud of me. The only thing they wanted was to sell the house, rent the house, cover their nuts. That's how it started. I took that money and then I rolled it into purchasing accounts. So I started buying accounts. I'd come home and I would look on Facebook Marketplace for lawn accounts for sale. I'd find somebody who's interested in selling the lawn accounts. They would ask astronomical amounts for lawn accounts, hundreds of thousands of dollars for lawn accounts. And I would find the guy that had $20,000 worth of lawn accounts and get to know him, become his friend, their friend, tell him about my story. And then I'd come into a situation where, it's no money down, just pay me so much a month. I'm like, wow, you're gonna let me buy your lawn accounts and you're gonna let me pay you with the money that I make from the lawn accounts. It's out there. These opportunities are out there. Then the next bunch of lawn accounts I bought, I gave the guy a down payment and used those accounts to pay off the money I owed him. It's possible. You gotta put yourself in a position to succeed. I didn't go on trips. When there were holidays, I was working. I didn't have holidays. I didn't have vacations. I grinded. I went to bed and I got up. I breathed and ate the service business that I started. I had no choice. 38-year-old Russell had no choice. Time's not on my side anymore. Nobody was knocking on my door saying, hey, I found $500,000 sitting in my yard, you want it? It's a dumb analogy, but nobody's coming to rescue me. The dog that got hit by the car that everybody drove past and nobody stopped to help, that was me. You start licking your wounds, you get your butt up off the ground, and you go out and you start something. You get out there and you do something. You're gonna become successful no matter what. And I'm not saying be ruthless like actors on TV and stuff. You can be nice about it. You can be kind to people. I find that if you find a need and fill it, you'll make more money on these properties. Hey, what about those palm trees? When's the last time they were cut? You just found money. You added value to this customer's house. You gotta have your antenna on. You gotta be a good listener. I found myself painting these people's houses. I found myself doing other things while I was building up a successful service business. When I was done with the lawns, I went and I painted apartments. When I was done with the painting in the lawns, I pressure washed driveways, sidewalks. I fixed screen. I cleaned cabinets. I did everything that would get me one step closer to being successful. And guess what? When I was working, I was making money. I didn't think about the money that I was making like I did the first time I was successful. I paid no attention to it because I knew as long as I was working and these elbows were moving, I was sweating that money was going to wind up in that mailbox out by the road. That's how you do it. You got to put in the hard work. And then do it over and over again. Do it tired. In my case, I did it with bronchitis. I did it. Hurt. My back hurt so bad I couldn't get out of bed. I got out of bed and I went and did it. You got to be a warrior. You got to go into beast mode. You don't go out eating. You don't go out partying. You don't stay up late. You make and create new habits. I'll tell you about my situation here in another video. Tell you where I'm at in my life. I'm an entrepreneur. I want this channel to be about business stuff, entrepreneurial stuff, growth, motivation, humor. There's also a serious side to me. Somebody wants what you have, and they want it more than you want it. I've had that happen to me, where somebody wanted something I had. I had a business that was making $500,000 in sales a year from $10,000 a year. And somebody wanted it more than I did. And guess what? They got it. All right, guys, thanks for stopping by my channel. If you like this stuff, like and subscribe. I plan on putting out more videos. And if you have any questions, you want to comment down below, that'd be great. Hit the like button if you want. Until the next time, thanks a lot for stopping by. This is Russell.